The Great Gatsby isn't just a story about a rich guy pining for a girl from his past. It's really not. It's actually the ultimate autopsy of the American dream. Today, we're going to navigate through the glamorous parties, the deeply hidden secrets, and honestly, the profound moral emptiness of the 1920s jazz age. We're going to examine exactly how far people will go to construct an absolute illusion and the devastating fallout when that illusion inevitably, and I mean inevitably, collides with reality. Let's dive in.
Our guide through this whole crazy world is Nick Carraway. Now, he sets this incredibly deliberate tone right away by claiming he's inclined to reserve all judgments. But here's the catch, and it's a big one. He's actually one of the most judgmental narrators in all of literature. He claims to be this perfectly neutral observer, which makes him the ideal confidant for the wild characters we're about to meet. But as you'll see, that tolerance, yeah, it's a total facade, and it eventually crumbles.
You see, that supposed non-judgment gets tested immediately by this massive societal divide on Long Island. Picture this, two identical land formations, separated by a bay, but they represent entirely different universes. On one side, you have East Egg. This is the fortress of old, inherited money. It's full of these glittering, fashionable white palaces, like the one belonging to Nick's cousin Daisy and her, well, completely arrogant husband Tom Buchanan. Across the water sits West Egg. This is the flashy, trying way too hard home of new money. That's where Nick lives, in this tiny little bungalow, squeezed right next to the colossal, imitation European mansion of a very mysterious man named J. Gatsby.
But to get from those glittering palaces to the city, the wealthy have to speed through something called the Valley of Ashes. And wow, this isn't just a physical place on a map, it's this grim, desolate wasteland, a literal dumping ground of poverty that serves as the inescapable byproduct of 1920s capitalist excess. And it's constantly being watched over by these giant, disembodied eyes of Dr. T.J. Eckelberg on a fading billboard. It's super eerie. This bleak wasteland is where the spiritless mechanic George Wilson lives, and where Tom Buchanan brazenly conducts his illicit affair with George's incredibly intense wife, Myrtle.
Now, to escape the quiet of the eggs, our characters constantly plunge headfirst into the absolute chaos of New York City. Nick talks about the city rising up in white heaps, built with a wish out of what he calls non-olfactory money. Basically, wealth perfectly scrubbed clean of its dirty industrial origins. It's a towering, booming landscape where the rules just seem totally suspended. In this city, anything at all, even someone as unbelievable as Jay Gatsby, feels completely possible.
And back out in West Egg, that anything is possible vibe completely takes over Gatsby's house. I mean, he throws these wildly extravagant parties, and hundreds of uninvited guests just show up, treating his home like a public amusement park. They eagerly drink his liquor and eat his food while spreading the most insane rumors about him. They're whispering that he's a bootlegger or a murderer or maybe even related to German royalty. They pay him this ultimate ironic tribute. They are completely captivated by the spectacle of the party while knowing absolutely nothing about the actual man funding the whole shebang.
Okay, let's peel back the illusion a bit and look at the actual timeline of James Gatz, because, yep, that's his real name. He was born to unsuccessful farmers in North Dakota. At 17, the moment he met a millionaire named Dan Cody on Lake Superior, he totally reinvented himself, officially becoming J. Gatsby. Later on in 1917, as a penniless young military officer, he fell desperately in love with Daisy. But, he was poor, and she ended up marrying the wealthy Tom Buchanan. So practically everything Gatsby does next, including buying that sprawling Long Island mansion in 1922, is for one single reason: just to be directly across the bay from her.
Which brings us to the story's most famous symbol, the green light. For years, Gatsby literally stood on his lawn reaching out toward that single tiny light at the end of Daisy's dock. But when Nick finally manages to arrange their reunion, the colossal significance of that light just vanishes. It goes back to being just a light on a dock. Gatsby's entire bootlegging empire, the massive parties, the imported silk shirts, literally all of it was constructed just to reach across that bay. His fatal flaw isn't actually that he loves Daisy, it's that he firmly believes he can fundamentally rewind time itself. Well, that grand illusion finally, violently shatters in a stiflingly hot room at the Plaza Hotel. It's the middle of summer, emotions are boiling over, and Gatsby basically demands that Daisy wipe the slate entirely clean and tell Tom she never loved him. But here is where old money really flexes its power. Tom viciously exposes Gatsby's facade. He reveals that the fortune wasn't inherited at all, but built illegally through bootlegging. Faced with this gritty, ugly reality, Daisy's resolve just crumbles. She admits she actually did love Tom once. Triumphant and completely contemptuous, Tom confidently sends Daisy driving back to Long Island in Gatsby's own yellow car, knowing full well Gatsby is no longer a threat.
From there, the drive home spirals rapidly into a total nightmare down in the Valley of Ashes. Step 1. Myrtle Wilson, desperate to escape her controlling husband, runs out into the dark road. She mistakenly thinks Tom is driving the approaching yellow car. In an instant, the car violently strikes and kills her, and then just speeds off into the night. When Tom arrives at the horrific scene later, he assumes Gatsby was driving, and he subtly directs a grieving George Wilson's anger right toward him. But the ultimate tragedy? Nick later finds out that Daisy was actually behind the wheel, yet Gatsby is fully prepared to shoulder the blame just to protect her.
In the absolute devastation that follows, George Wilson is totally consumed by grief. He's staring out at those giant, unblinking billboard eyes of Dr. T.J. Eckelberg, and he basically equates this cheap advertising gimmick to the all-seeing eyes of God. He tells his dead wife, "You may fool me, but you can't fool God." Believing Gatsby is both the driver of the car and his wife's lover, Wilson seeks a tragically misguided revenge. He murders Gatsby right in his own swimming pool before turning the gun on himself, which completes the story's really dark, violent end.
The aftermath of all this exposes the chilling, heartbreaking hypocrisy of the world Gatsby literally died trying to buy into. Look at this contrast. All summer long, thousands of sparkling people flocked to his mansion. They drank his wine, ate his food, used his pool. But at his funeral, the silence is deafening. His business partner Meyer Wolfsheim straight up refuses to get involved. Daisy doesn't even send a single flower. In the end, the only people who show up are Nick, that eccentric owl-eyed man from the library, a few servants, and Gatsby's immensely proud father. It is incredibly bleak.
So what about the people who actually caused the tragedy? Well, Nick observes their actions with this sickening kind of clarity. Tom and Daisy simply retreat. They retreat right back into their enormous wealth and their vast carelessness. Nick points out that they smash up things and creatures, and then they just let other people clean up the bloody mess they made. Nick's supposed neutrality? Yeah, that is utterly shattered by this point. Disgusted by the hollow core of the East Coast, a place that once seemed to hold such wild promise for him, he decides to pack up, leave it all behind, and return to the Midwest forever.
But right before he leaves, Nick wanders over to Gatsby's empty mansion one last time. Sitting there on the blue lawn, he realizes the profound tragedy of Gatsby's relentless pursuit. Gatsby firmly believed in the green light. He believed in that beautiful, orgastic future that always seems to recede just as we reach for it. What he didn't realize was that his dream was already behind him. It was already lost in the dark fields of the Republic. It's such a poignant reflection on the American dream itself, really. This eternal, hopeful struggle toward a future that is, fundamentally, always going to be out of reach.
And so, this explainer leaves us with Fitzgerald's haunting final thought. He writes, "So we beat on, boats against the current, borne back ceaselessly into the past. Gatsby tried to row against the massive tide of time and class, desperately trying to recreate a history that was gone forever. And honestly, it challenges us to look in the mirror. Are we, too, constantly fighting the current of our own unrecoverable pasts? Are we all forever chasing some green light in the darkness? Definitely something to think about the next time you catch yourself reaching for the past."